Hi friends, in Planet Earth Dating, it's Thursday, February 18th, 2016. There seems to be some aspect of Luce here in the Lynn life, Jack in the Jamie body mind, other teammates in other dimensions, most of us in the subatomic, and most of us in the physical. We're going through a period of time where there's an awful lot of interaction required with Planet Crazy, and it seems to have once more reduced Ra to something like a powder. We don't know whether or not we're going to be working with that during the videoed portions of today's efforts. As always, our foundational intention is to do what is ours to do right now in all dimensions, to manifest the divine plan. The data very clearly showing what's needed is to provide a collective restart. The data also very clearly showing the divine delivery system doesn't work at this size level and the size levels that are subatomic to this size level. And we don't really know whether or not there's a working divine delivery system anywhere. We've been searching for it this last day. And with that, the formal video portion of today's efforts began, but we remind you guys up there that the video cameras are always running. All you have to do is look up and you can see those red record dots. They're on all the time. And with that, it begins. What we're supposed to do right now is assess which pillar of the Search for Truth community needs our support the most right now. Is it the project known as Thing 1 or the main Search for Truth community? It might be the project known as Thing 1.
That's true, it feels weaker.
It feels like more is going wrong.
That's true.
So let's just merge. And what do I know? I know that sometimes we're completely off about that we are unwilling to see what's really going wrong, and we have to just stumble upon it in our daily refresh and see, oh my goodness, there's a complete and total disaster at some level of the central Search for Truth pillar, and that we were unaware of it. So that could be the case, and I'm acknowledging that, but my assessment as of this moment is that Thing 1 needs the support more than the main body of the Search for Truth community.
That's how it feels.
All right,
it's true.
Let's merge in Kosa. I do feel as though Kosa is running cables, and she isn't extraordinarily stressed.
No, she doesn't feel panicked.
No, she wishes things were different, but things are what they are.
That's true.
She's looking at her watch, and this probably has to do with the rotations that are supposed to be happening so that the Search for Truth crew can refresh themselves.
That's true.
Can come back to the Search for Truth main pillar from the Thing 1 Search for Truth pillar, get their continuing education, and then go back out in service to helping Thing 1 fulfill his destiny.
That's true.
And people aren't coming back, and there are lots of empty chairs, and there are people who look like they're vomiting, but it just means these people really need some help.
That's true.
And what am I supposed to do here? Good point.
That's
okay,
true.
So let's just start to sort the whole Search for Truth community, those who are the best match for the work in Thing 1 right now.
Whoosh.
To Thing 1, those who are the best match for the main Search for Truth efforts to the central axis of the Search for Truth pillar.
Whoosh.
It feels very much like a separation.
That's true.
Mine to me, yours to you. Mine to me, yours to you. Kosa's saying it's thin, it's weak, this isn't going to do it.
That's true. Weak. That's the word.
How high must... No, that's wrong. How deep must we reach to connect with truth that will propel thing one into his destiny. We've tried and tried and tried and tried this last 24 hours to get an increased flow of soul energy from the higher dimensions.
That's true.
And the people up there are cowardly and lazy, and they don't want to do it. And so they help a teeny tiny little bit, but we are expending huge amounts of efforts to get a tiny bit of soul flow, and it doesn't really make sense.
That's true.
What has worked twice before is there we go, reaching down with the intention to connect with truth that will propel thing one into his destiny. Merging, reaching down. And now, Phil, you could merge in and reach down with Kosa.
That's
you
true.
really can do it. You did it all yourself before she showed up.
That's true.
It's odd that you feel the job is too big for you now. That doesn't even make sense, actually. And Joseph, you were doing more than this before Kosa showed up. It's odd. It doesn't even make sense that you are now doing less.
That's true.
We've seen this pattern, though. We've seen it in teaching the classes, the presences who channel through this Lynn life in the 8 years of teaching, trying to teach humanoids to facilitate angelically guided multidimensional energy healing for soul purpose, has seen this pattern play out many times, where people are bumbling and stumbling, and the moment someone slightly more capable shows up, they just completely stop.
That's true.
It always makes sense when all the facts are on the table.
Right. If you're looking for an excuse to not do the work, that would be an excuse to say, well, that person can do it better than me, so I won't do it.
I don't feel that Phil is looking for an
No, that doesn't
excuse.
feel
That's
like
not
his
what's
thing.
going on with Phil, and I don't believe it's what's going on with Joseph.
Doesn't feel like Joseph's thing.
That's not it. What do I know? I know we all have our own particular toxic brew.
That's true.
And if we find what Phil's toxic brew is, maybe he'll want to change it, and maybe he won't. And if we find Joseph's toxic brew, maybe he'll want to change it, and maybe he won't. And what Asha has said in the past is, focus on the people who are doing the work, not the people who aren't doing the work. Let's ask Kosa, let's just do this. Let's just do this. Phil
true.
did this all by himself. Nobody doing anything to help. It's
true.
really no different than the situation you're in right now, doing it basically all by yourself, no one doing anything to help, really.
That's true.
And if Joseph and the Han Solo team are willing to continue patrolling the road that maybe once a day now a car is coming through.
Maybe.
Oh, that's interesting. Then that's better than nothing. But what that shows actually is that the dimension that's at the top of the thing one pillar is tapped out. Everybody who's coming from that dimension has come.
That's true.
And it's time to expand another level up, punch another hole in the sky, and then whoever is going to come from the dimension above that will come, and as the flow of soul energy slows to a trickle like it is right now, then you punch up another hole through another dimension.
That's true.
Repeat. That's something that someone would like to do. It might
I
be
feel
Joseph,
that.
it might be a Han Solo.
It might be Joseph.
It might be Joseph. He says, oh,
Yeah.
I didn't understand that.
Right.
Good. That's what we're supposed to be doing here with regard to the upper end of the pillar in the project known as Thing 1.
That's true.
And Phil seems more interested in what would be down there.
That's true.
If Joseph really pursues punching into a new higher dimension, and a new higher dimension, and a new higher dimension, higher, literally meaning higher than the ones through which we were previously intersecting,
That's true.
that will be a support to Kosa is with regards to the upward stretch. And Phil really has feels like a burning desire to connect with truth that will propel at least Thing 1 forward on his soul plan.
That's true.
He feels very solidly sure that thing one is a walking disaster, harmful to all whose paths cross his.
That's true.
And he really wants to stop that from happening because he thinks this guy isn't fundamentally bad.
No.
And he just needs to stop him from harming everything he touches.
That's true.
So all of a sudden Phil is
Really going
downward like
That's
he means
true.
it. And Joseph is going upward. I see him, it looks like popping up out of a manhole cover.
That's
And it's
true.
funny, like the manhole cover is resting on his head in a comic way.
Yeah.
And
that's
he's
true. Looking
looking around.
And there's like a suction going into
Yes,
the manhole.
there is. When the cover opens, whoosh, it's like pulling a plug out of a drain.
That's true.
He's laughing. It's at least energy flowing down.
Yeah, that's
it doesn't
true.
feel like individuated sentience.
Yeah, no faces.
No
that
faces,
I recognize,
but
a
energy.
feeling of whoosh.
All right, so Joseph, you keep going upward, level by level.
Level by level.
Phil, you keep going downward, deeper, 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 deeper. While looking upward, are you going to distort your energy
That's
body?
true.
Steer by mirrors, and then keep going downward to truth that will propel thing one into his destiny. Merging again with Kosa,
Merging.
and now running the cables through those extensions as Joseph kind of like clears a path going higher. The cables reach more easily higher.
That's
As
true.
Phil kind of clears a path going lower, the cables reach more easily lower.
That's true.
And to love these cables, really love them, and call the cables into their fullness, their destinies, their greatness. And the pulleys also. There's a pulley that's dropping downward at the very bottom of these cables, and it reminds me of the cable running station in the Central Search for Truth Pillars axis
That's
that
true.
drops down as some benchmark or another is passed, and I'm not the one making that call. I don't know what the benchmarks are.
That's true.
Right now, that pulley at the base of the Thing One Search for Truth cables is basically doing the same job that Paul is doing in the main Search for Truth pillar.
That's true.
Just dropping down
Deeper.
deeper, 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 deeper. And Phil is doing what Asha is doing in the central axis.
That's
Oh, interesting.
Ooh,
similar,
very
not quite in the same
similar.
way, but the same function. Phil,
Right.
you're doing the same job as Asha is doing, kind of, and it actually that would make sense because his energy body has a lot of overlap with Asha's
That's true.
in their way of being.
Yeah, a lot of similarities.
Yes.
Wow.
Asha's error pattern is really odd. She just does a fabulous job everywhere but in the Lynn life and Jamie Body Mind.
That's true.
And she did a fabulous job in the Lynn life for
A really
many
long time.
years. And then something happened about a year ago, and something flipped in her brain, and now she's great as long as she isn't here.
That's true.
And we saw how Phil was doing a great job until Kosa showed up, which is the person he most wants to work with. Kosa is the person he most wants to work with.
That's true.
And then he stopped.
And the Lynn life is the person that Asha most wants to work with.
Well, maybe we can't station Phil and Kosa together. They can both be in Thing One, but not at the same level, possibly, because Asha and the Lynn life are here in the same pillar,
That's
just not at
true.
the same level, possibly.
Oh, so that would mean that Phil should not just be digging, but also clearing as he digs. And I don't know if that's happening right now.
Yeah, Phil,
Yeah, that's
don't
not
just
happening.
kick these lies into the pillar where they're going to choke Kosa.
Right.
Come on, get them going. Work with the cables and the pulleys. They're coming with you. You could kind of hook them on your belt loop or something in the
Yeah, I
back
feel that.
and have them take this stuff up and out as you drop down.
There, that starts to feel better.
What do I know? I know we've just finished the very first stage of our daily refresh.
That's true.
And that we're going to need to continue this before our next intersection with Planet Crazy, because it just takes too long to clear the untruths out of the pillar, and we
That's
don't
true.
do good work. Our clarity drops to almost nil
That's true.
with every interaction with Planet Crazy. So we need to finish this before 2 o'clock.
That's true.
Got it.
Got it.
Okay. How high must we reach to connect with a working divine delivery system? I feel Black Wolf really going for that question. He wants to know. What he wants to know is whether or not there is a working divine delivery system.
That's true.
And that's how we discover whether or not there is a working divine delivery system, is by pursuing an answer to the question of how high must we reach to connect with a working divine delivery system.
That's true.
And then to actually intend to do it like we mean it. Don't go up that vine, Black
No.
Wolf. No, just go up a
It doesn't feel
cable.
right.
Go up a cable. Don't go up that vine. It's not correct. He's checking his kind of like compass, and he's saying, you're right, that he wouldn't have noticed that it's like a hair off, but 1 degree off down here could make a huge difference up there.
That's true.
Straight up. Go straight up. Sight through probe. That's how the pillars destabilize, is just being 1 degree off.
That's true.
Long enough. Wow. It's just we can't miss these refreshes.